Now, the South African's broad-based black economic empowerment policy is the legislative framework aimed at addressing inequalities of apartheid by promoting economic participation and opportunities for black South Africans. This policy has been active since the year 2003. It is now over 2 decades that South Africa has been making sure that this gets implemented, whether being in foreign and for local business opportunities that arise, right? Which is something that, of course, with no doubt, it has benefited the South African black people that were previously disadvantaged during the apartheid era. But now there's been hurdles, especially from foreign businesses wanting to penetrate South Africa, but because of this BEE or some of the regulations under BEE, they found themselves not wanting to do business with South Africa. I mean, if you remember, one of the latest recent deal which was supposed to take place, it has to be the SpaceX deal, which Elon Musk company was supposed to come and give us the, obviously, Starlink satellite for ease connection, or the satellite connection Starlink, which apparently it is a super fast internet, right? But because of some of its impact onto foreign deals, like the company having to give 30% of its ownership to a black owned or to a BEE complying company, he ended up not deciding to go on, or there's been a back and forth with that deal coming to South Africa. So because of this, there's been some back and forth, and the people have got mixed reactions from this. Now, the reason why I'm doing this video today is because now World Bank came in and said South Africa needs to consider easing the regulations and the policies that has to do with, of course, this BEE, because it is restricting opportunities to come to South Africa. It is restricting some of the companies, especially foreign, to come and do business in South Africa, which this our finance minister, Mr. Godongwana, has also accepted that it's now maybe time to warming up the idea of easing some of the regulations that could open so many doors to South Africa. I mean, the World Bank said easing some of these regulations could, of course, stimulate and make investors to come in, flocking in SA and invest, create jobs, which is something that, of course, we'll all want, right, at the end of the day. I mean, take note that they are not saying BEE should be scraped off, but they are saying it should be eased. I mean, it has been over 20 years since BEE policies have been implemented. And I must say, there's been some transformations onto black people, which is something that, of course, it's a good thing because it was not there during the apartheid era. But this, I think, for the sake of South Africa to grow, of course, we need to look at easing, not scraping, easing some of the regulations, like, let's say, the fact that I think the most critical one that so many of the companies or some of the people really complain about is the 30% ownership of a BEE company owning 30% of whatever foreign company wants to come and invest into South Africa, or 30% of black ownership, which ends up resulting into a joint venture between these companies and the South African BEE companies, or companies that comply with BEE. I believe, in as much as I know some people will be against this because they talk about transformation, which obviously it has been over 20 years since there's been this transformation going on, which is a very good thing. I am a beneficiary of BEE, and obviously BEE has been doing pretty well. But when you look into especially international trade, right, companies coming in South Africa and wanting to do business in South Africa, we need to really think about these things, because on the other hand, you'll remember that unemployment is very high in South Africa, and of course these are not allowing these companies to come and do business in South Africa. At the end of the day, the people that are going to suffer is again going to be us, because it will hinder job employment, which as a result our people will continue staying without job, which is something that is not good. And let me clear this one out. BEE, yes, in South Africa, it's what is one of the hells that some of the foreign companies, especially they're experiencing. I know there are local other companies feeling that, of course, BEE should be scrapped, but me, I want to talk about foreign because we talking about the one of the reason why this thing has spiked. It's of course because SpaceX was deal has not went through simply because of this 30% requirement of BEE, right? Which of course SpaceX does not agree, does not want this deal, and yeah, it is for that reason that it has been some back and forth. I mean, BEE, yes, locally, it's one of the hurdles that restrain or that make some of the deals that are supposed to come to South Africa to end up not coming, right? But in countries like Europe, even the US, there is this thing called tariff where they introduce tariffs to make sure that they promote their local companies. I mean, in Europe right now, you know that there is when you look into the EV market or EV car market, what they are doing is that they've imposed 20% or up to 37% onto Chinese electric vehicle cars being shipped into Europe, which the only way to mitigate that, they're saying build factories in Europe and build those cars in Europe so that at least you can create jobs and all that, which is something that of course it's understandable, right? But again, we need not to overdo these things. They could also look at easing, of course, these tariffs, because at the end of the day, when those companies are selling in their country, they open dealerships which will deal with selling their actual cars, and of course repairs, which that gives opportunity to those Europe local countries. But over and above this, then they come and impose that 20% or up to 37% tariff increase onto Chinese exported vehicles, which it has been back and forth. You know that China and Europe, they've been talking about this, trying to find solutions because it's a hell. They say it's not fair competition, which the reason why I'm talking about that is to show you some of the regulations, some of the restrictions that are being faced out there by companies not being able to penetrate the other markets because of the laws that are in those countries or that are in specific countries, right? Which in South Africa, based on the World Bank, they are saying that South Africa can start or needs to start thinking about easing these BEE laws, not scraping. Again, I will say this, not scraping, but easing, so that there can be more opportunities that come into South Africa. There could be more investors that come into South Africa. There could be also local investors doing great things and creating more jobs for the economy. Which, do I agree with this? I think in some way I do, because I mean it has been over 2 decades, and I believe that we cannot obviously just say it's something that lasts permanently, because at the end of the day we are going to end up losing investors, we end up going to lose opportunities that come in South Africa, and we will forever be having issues with unemployment, because the international companies, not only do they bring employment, but they bring opportunities, they bring the technology, which some of these regulations and policies could restrict that, and therefore starting to ease could be a very good signal that make opportunities flocking into SA by some of the companies, opening companies here in South Africa for good opportunity. So I just thought I'd come and give you that, or what I just read right now. I mean, like I said, the finance minister, Godongwana, also agree with this thing that it's time maybe to ease some of these restrictions for BEE, right? I mean, the 30%, like I said, it is that one thing that a lot of people are talking about, but I've noticed that some people are exaggerating and saying it's 50%. No, it's not 50%, it's 30%, right? Which I would suppose it can be eased. They can start looking at easing some of these restrictions, as that will spike some positive sentiment into South Africa. This is one thing that can attract even more investments into South Africa, which is a good thing, and hopefully they do it the right way. In as much as, yes, we want these opportunities, but let people, the previously disadvantaged people, continue benefiting from these policies. Though the restrictions might be eased a bit, there should still be some benefit that the previously disadvantaged still get. But this thing of just letting it like this. Obviously, in as much as it is a good thing, but we need to also consider or factor in the opportunities that we might be restricting to come to our country, which will not only elevate our country or take our country forward, but will also create job opportunities, which is something that, of course, we need to think about that also. So that's all from me. Just thought I'd give you this quick update. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and unsubscribe. Don't forget to hit or click that notification bell so that at least you get notified by YouTube every time I drop a new content. I will see you on the next one, and God bless you all.